everybody, it's Paige Evans. Thank you so much for joining me today. I have a new process video to share with you. This is about staying home. We're spending a lot of time at home these days. So I started with my home overlapping with stitching holes cut file, and I actually am kind of preferring my Cricut these days. It can cut through thicker cardstock, and it cut out every single one of these beautiful stitching holes flawlessly. I want to show you how to do a chain link stitch. Bring your needle with a knotted end up through the first hole and go out the next hole. Bring your needle up through the next hole, and then you want to loop it around that first stitch. So bring your needle behind the thread, loop it around, pull it taut, so not tight or you're going to tear it, and then down through that same hole. Go up through the next hole, and then again wrap your needle around that stitch to create a loop and go down through the same hole. One more time, bring your needle up through the next hole and then create a loop, so pass your needle back behind that stitch and go down through the hole. So this is called a chain link stitch. You're basically creating links of stitching. I'm using all 6 strands of white DMC embroidery floss. And this cut file, again, it comes with these stitching holes. So you send it to your machine and the machine will cut out this title, and then it cuts out all the holes so it's ready to be stitched instead of piercing all of the holes yourself. Once you get to a corner, you basically just do the same thing. Loop your needle around to create the chain link stitch, and just don't pull it too tight or else it gets a little wonky. And continue stitching on. This took me about 4 hours, 4 to 5 hours to stitch this entire title. To add more thread, you want to flip it over to the back. Also, you might be wondering why I'm wearing a glove. It just helps the needle not to poke my hands. Okay, so once you're on the back, you want to just tie off the end of the thread into a knot, trim off any excess, and then come in with a new length of thread, which also has a knot at the end, and you just continue on. Continue stitching. So I have quite a few of these cut files that have stitching holes. It's a really fun project to do on road trips or airplane flights. So here I am finishing up. I love the texture that this creates, having hand stitching on a cut file. So I'm finishing up by tying it into a knot and then trimming off the excess. So I'll flip it over and ta-da, home. And I'll show you up close what the chain link stitching looks like. It's definitely not perfect, but practicing definitely helps. And now I am going to back all of the pieces. So I'm bringing in my 6x8 paper pad with Bloomstreet from the Bloomstreet collection, and it has silver foil details on some of the pages. I'm kind of going to stick with pinks, purples, and blues. And I think there are around 9 pieces. I want to back each of the sections with a different pattern. Just kind of trying to figure out which of the 3 letters. So I'm going to back the H, the M, and the E with pattern papers, and the heart with a photo. So on the back side, you want to trace the letter. Make sure you flip over the cardstock as well. And then when you're cutting it out, you want to cut it out with about a 1/4 inch, or so between an 1/8 inch to a 1/4 inch border. And this way you'll have something to adhere onto, otherwise it'll just fall right through the cut file. So you cut it out a little bit larger in order to back that section. So it's looking good. I'm going to use this quick dry liquid adhesive by American Crafts from their Sticky Thumb adhesive line. Dabbing that all around the back side of the cut file and then placing the pattern paper right on top. And it dries really quickly, which is awesome. I can continue on. Pressing it in place and moving on to the next letter. I kind of thought about doing monochromatic, but then when I put this blue paper behind the E, I decided to add more color onto this. So again, you flip the pattern paper over to the back side, you flip the cardstock piece as well, trace it with a pencil, and then cut it out about an 1/8 inch to a 1/4 inch larger than what you traced with the pencil. So it's a little bit fiddly, it takes a while. I could have my machine cut out all of these inner pieces by doing an offset in Studio, but by doing it by hand, I can pick exactly the patterns that I want to go behind the pieces. Sometimes I change my mind, just like I did when I thought I was going to back them all with pink papers. I was easily able to change my mind to back the E with blue. So I've got 2 pieces down, 8 to go. I'm just going to speed through this, but I want you to be able to see which patterns that I am cutting out from. So the cut file got a little bit scawampus as I was stitching, but as you are backing it with the pattern papers, that's when you can even things out again and make it a little more straight. But I'm definitely not worried about having everything perfect. For this little triangle, or not triangle, but rectangle in between, I'm doing a little bit differently. I traced on top of the pattern paper, and if you trace on top, you'd be able to see the pencil lines. So you want to erase the pencil lines before you glue it in place. And this was so I could get that specific area with the purples and the blues. Since that pattern has yellows and oranges and all the colors on it, but I'm sticking with these 3 colors, tracing on top, I was able to get the exact piece that I wanted, rather than if I flipped it over to the back and traced on the back, I wouldn't know what I would get. Got a few more tiny pieces, and this triangle, I forgot to flip the cardstock piece over, so I actually cut it out wrong. But since it's such an easy shape, I was just able to cut out a new piece quickly. All right, flipping it over, ta-da! Last part is to back the open heart with a photo. So this is a photo of me and Fox and Jane watching TV in bed. We have done a whole lot of that lately. I'm choosing this pattern paper from Bloom Street for the background, and I want to do some mixed media, so I am adding gesso to the background with this super cool scraper tool from Vicki Boutin, and this not only softens the background to help patterns really pop off, but it also creates a foundation on which to do mixed media. So it creates a barrier between the watercolors and the pattern paper. Instead of it just seeping right into the paper, now it kind of stays on top and blends together and creates a really cool look. I've pulled in my 2 favorite watercolor sets from Prima. The top one is called Tropicals. The colors are deeper and richer. And the bottom one is called Pastel Dreams. What I love about these watercolors is they're really opaque. So you just get a really deep, rich color, and you can make it even deeper and richer by doing more layers. So I'm again pulling in colors that I've used for the pattern papers to back the cut file. So you got some pinks, purples, blues, and dropping it onto the background, moving it around, and then I did go back and splash the same colors on top. To help the drying process speed it up, I used a hair dryer, and it's all dry. And then I actually ran it through my Mink machine, and this flattened it out because it did warp slightly from all of the water and watercolors. So I ran it through my Mink machine twice, and that flattened it out pretty good. I'm using dimensional foam adhesive to attach the cut file in place to add even more depth and shadows, so it literally pops off the page. And going for minimal embellishing, I opened up a new package of the floral die cuts, and I'm creating 4 clusters of them on each of the letters. The O is replaced with a heart, but same idea. So 4 clusters of flowers, one on the H, one on the heart, one on the M, one on the E, and this helps draw your eye all around the layout. I'm quickly placing them, not worrying about gluing anything down yet, just want to make sure I like how this is looking. Once I do like the placement, I take a picture with my phone just in case things get nudged or moved around or my cat decides to come and walk all over my page, naughty kitty. And then I glued everything down, again, using different kinds of adhesives like dimensional adhesive and liquid adhesive to create all those different thicknesses. I wrote journaling on a piece of a die cut from the ephemera die cuts, trying to figure out the placement, so I'm just moving it around and decide I like it down here, kind of in between all of these flower clusters right here at the bottom of the H. And that finishes it up. I hope you are inspired to pick up my Bloom Street collection and this home overlapping with stitching holes cut file. You can pick it up in a link below. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know if you have any questions, and I will see you again in my next video. Have a great day.